Well, alrighty then. Sorry to keep y'all hanging. On top of being a rail fan and a farm tractor enthusiast, I've also been a NASCAR fan for as long as I can remember. And I've known a lot of other NASCAR fans throughout my life, but I'm willing to bet that almost none of them have actually been to a NASCAR race in any of the top 3 divisions. However, I plan on fixing that with this video proposing how and why the NASCAR Cup Series should race in the land of 10,000 lakes. But before I get into the meat and potatoes of this video, I need to yap on a little about a history lesson. Some of the more avid NASCAR fans watching might know about the ASA series. It was a primarily Midwestern national touring series known for producing NASCAR Cup talents such as Mark Martin, Rusty Wallace, Joey Logano, and Kyle Busch, just to name a few. But it is also one of the only stock car series to have a solid track record in the state of Minnesota. The ASA held their first race in Minnesota in 1978, and by the 90s, the Miller Lite 300 at the state fairgrounds had become a marquee event on the ASA schedule. Well-known ASA regulars such as Kevin Sawinski, Gary St. Amant, Mike Eddy, and Dick Trickle all won at this track. However, for some inexplicable reason that I still can't wrap my head around, the folks in charge of the state fair decided to give stock car racing the boot. And so the ASA held their last race in 2002, ending a nearly 90-year-long tradition of auto racing at the state fair. The site is now used for concerts and overflow parking. The date for 2003 would be moved just down Interstate 35 to Elko Speedway. The ASA would race at Elko one more time in 2004, but due to crippling financial issues, the series as a whole went belly up later that year. In 2012, after an 8-year hiatus without a national touring series, the ARCA Menard series would make its debut at Elko Speedway. The next year, in 2013, 50 more laps were added to the overall length of the race, and a 250-lap summer night ARCA race has been an annual event at Elko Speedway ever since. Now, could a NASCAR Cup race realistically be held at Elko Speedway? Sadly, no. Yes, it would be absolutely amazing to watch a field of next-gen cars slug it out on a 3/8 mile long bull ring, but there are a few very big issues that would keep it from happening. First problem is that Elko Speedway doesn't have safer barriers. Obviously, the vast majority of short tracks don't. I personally don't think it's an issue since the cars don't even reach 100 miles an hour and there haven't been any recorded fatalities. But knowing NASCAR, they'd probably put safer barriers on a roller derby rink if they owned one, so they've got to go up. Second big issue with Elko Speedway is the seating capacity. The main grandstands only have enough seating for 5,000 to 6,000 people. For the ARCA races, they're sold out, if not very close to sold out, and even for the weekly events, they are still jam-packed. It would be relatively easy to build and maintain more grandstands if they had the money, but it would be nearly impossible to justify doing that. Further compounding this issue is the parking lot. There's almost not enough parking as is, and it will only get worse if 5,000 to 10,000 more seats get added unless they do a major parking lot expansion. Which, considering that there's a quarter midget track owned by Elko Speedway, a drive-in movie theater also owned by Elko Speedway, and a ballpark all in the way, I doubt they're in any kind of hurry to do that. Third and final big issue is, ironically, that the temporary pit road is very small. Small as in it only has enough room for 20 cars small. So even if the Cup Series is to come to Elko Speedway, it would have to be one of those big-time invitation-only events like the Clash or the All-Star Race. Considering that during the Clash, most of the state looks like this, and our vehicles look like this, I doubt that NASCAR would want to hold a race at Elko during that time. The weather would definitely clear up by the time of the All-Star race, but there's another problem with that too. Last year, North Wilkesboro Speedway was chosen to host the All-Star race and was finally brought back to the Cup Series schedule after nearly 30 years of abandonment. I respect this decision a lot, and to take its date away after it just came back doesn't sit right with me. So the All-Star race at Elko Speedway is a no-go too. For the record, before I move on, don't interpret this as you shouldn't go to Elko Speedway, or Elko Speedway is a bad racetrack.
Despite living
living over an hour away, I personally have been to Elko Speedway 3 times since 2022, and I've never left that track disappointed. It's a great little track and you should get out there if you can, but it's just not enough to host a cup race. However, there is a track that is definitely capable of doing so. Brainerd International Raceway has hosted road racing series such as Moto America and Trans Am, and the front stretch is so long that the NHRA, Street Outlaws, No Prep Kings, and other drag racing series frequently visit throughout the year. But just like the other 2 tracks, the ASA would also visit Brainerd a couple of times in the early to mid 90s. I wouldn't be lying if I said it made for some great stock car road racing. And with the next gen cars, the racing will only get better. With a fully independent suspension and 5-speed sequential gearbox, it is old news by sports car standards, but it still makes the previous generation of stock cars look like farm equipment by comparison. Since Brainerd is a 3-mile long road course, there shouldn't be any issues getting a full field to show up for the race. But unlike Elko Speedway, Brainerd will definitely need safer barriers, especially in turns 1 and 2. Both turns are long, very high speed, sweeping, banked turns. And if anybody ever flies into the wall, or worse, it's gonna be bad news. The rest of the track should be perfectly fine as far as safety goes, but there should still be safer barriers just for good measure. And now for what date I think this track should get, I don't believe a single soul in the NASCAR community genuinely believes Texas Motor Speedway needs 2 dates on the Cup schedule. It's been the worst track on the schedule since 1997, and it will continue to be that way until NASCAR finally realizes that nobody actually likes it and gives it the bulldozer treatment. The only reason why people said this year's spring race was any good is because the Chase Elliott fans said so, and we all know how intelligent they are. If getting rid of the worst of the cookie-cutter mile-and-a-half quad ovals from the late 90s and early 2000s means replacing it with one of the most underrated road courses in the country, then so be it. The Minnesota market has been begging for a NASCAR Cup race for decades now, and Brainerd International Raceway is the greatest choice to fix that. But that's just my 2 cents. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe and clang that bell on your way out for more rare-rooting, tractors, and NASCAR content.